Please subscribe. It helps a lot.
Max woke to the sound of rain against the window. The room felt heavy, as if the gray morning pressed against the walls. He lay still for a long time, listening, wishing the day could pass without anyone noticing. His phone on the nightstand lit up with messages, but he didn't reach for it. It was August 27th, his birthday. The first thing he thought about every year was that it was Alex's birthday too. They were born 2 years apart, but shared the same date. Alex never lived past 18. Max was now reaching the age his brother never crossed. He pulled himself out of bed and stepped into the hallway. The house smelled faintly of coffee. His parents moved quietly in the kitchen, their voices low, their movements restrained. He wondered if they even remembered it was his day, or if the reminder of Alex made them want to erase it. His mother looked up when he entered, her lips pressing into a faint smile that failed to hold. His father gave a nod without speaking. On the table sat a plate with pancakes. Max sat down in silence, his fork scraping against his own plate louder than any of them spoke. His mother tried a few words about school starting soon, about the rain, about groceries. His father barely responded. Their silence cut more than their words. They had not spoken Alex's name in months. Max wanted to scream it, to force it out of them, to make them admit they remembered. Instead, he ate in silence and felt his chest burn with the weight of everything unspoken. When the meal ended, his parents left for work, as if this day meant nothing. The house emptied, leaving Max with the quiet echo of his own footsteps. He returned to his room, shut the door, and sat on the edge of his bed. He opened his phone. Dozens of messages blinked from classmates, reminders from social media, birthday greetings that felt hollow. He scrolled past them all until his thumb hovered over a single name. Mason. He had not texted him in years. His parents would never forgive Mason. The town still whispered about him, as if he were the one who placed the truck on the road. Mason was Alex's best friend. He was also the last person to see him alive. That night, Mason told Alex something no one else knew, and hours later, Alex was gone. Max stared at the contact until the screen dimmed. He could almost see Mason's face in his mind, the way he smiled when they were younger, the way his laugh carried across fields during summer nights. He remembered how his chest used to ache whenever Mason leaned too close, how he had kept that secret love locked so deep that even Alex never guessed. He shut the phone, dropped it beside him, and pressed his hands over his eyes. The day felt wrong already. The rain outside did not ease, tapping against the glass in steady rhythm. Evening came slowly, dragging shadows across his room. He didn't bother turning on the light. He lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was all adulthood meant. Being older without being happier, carrying more weight without relief. A sound broke the quiet. At first he thought it was in his head, the kind of trick loneliness played, but then it grew clear. His name. Soft. Whispered. Max sat up, his eyes darting around the room. The air felt different, colder. In the reflection of the window, he saw something that made his throat tighten, a figure behind him standing near the dresser. He turned. Alex stood there. His brother looked the same as he did the last morning Max saw him. Same dark hair, same jacket he wore everywhere, same restless energy in his eyes. For a moment, Max could not breathe. His hands trembled against the blanket. "You're not here," Max whispered. Alex smiled faintly. "I don't have much time." Max wanted to rush forward, to grab him, to touch him, but he couldn't move. His body felt rooted to the bed. He searched Alex's face, desperate to find proof of life, desperate for anything real. "You can't be here," Max said again, his voice cracking. "I am," Alex replied, stepping closer. His figure carried no shadow. His steps made no sound, but only for tonight. Max's chest ached. Every word clung to him like weight. 2 years of silence, 2 years of absence, and now this. "Why now?" he asked. "Because you're 18, Alex said. "Because you're ready, and because Mason is not." The name punched through the air like a spark. Max flinched. He shook his head, his voice caught between anger and fear. "Don't bring him into this." Alex's eyes softened. "I have to. Mason is in trouble. You need to find him." Max stared, his pulse racing. He wanted to refuse, to tell Alex he was wrong, to crawl back into denial where Mason remained untouchable, unreachable. But Alex's gaze held him in place, steady and unyielding. "Mason blames himself," Alex continued. "He's carried it every day since the accident. Tonight he doesn't plan to carry it anymore." The rain outside beat harder against the glass. Max could barely breathe. He knew Alex meant it. Mason was going to do something final. "Why me?" Max whispered. "Why not you?" "Because I can't stay," Alex said. His form flickered for a moment as if the air itself tried to erase him. "You can. He needs you. Only you." Max pressed his hands into his knees to stop their shaking. He thought of Mason standing alone somewhere in the rain, drowning in guilt. He thought of the years of silence, of the secret he never dared to admit, of how much he wanted to hate him and how much he could never stop loving him. He lifted his head. Alex's face remained calm, though a faint sadness lingered in his eyes. Max swallowed hard. "I wouldn't even know how to find him." Alex moved toward the window, his outline faint against the glow of the streetlight. "I'll show you, but you need to go now." Max stood, his body trembling as if the floor shifted beneath him. He grabbed his jacket, his phone, his keys. He took one last look at Alex, afraid the vision would vanish before he could speak again. "I'm not ready for this," Max whispered. Alex's voice lowered. "You never will be. That's why you have to go." The streets of Derby looked washed out beneath the rain. Light from the street lamps spread across the pavement, dull and broken. Max's shoes slapped against wet concrete as he moved, his jacket clinging to him. Alex kept close, silent at first, his presence more felt than seen. Max wanted to believe this was a dream. He wanted to believe grief twisted his mind into shapes it could not hold. Yet each time he glanced to the side, Alex's figure remained, blurred around the edges but steady in his gaze. "Tell me where Mason is," Max said, his breath quick in the cold air. "By the river," Alex answered. "You remember where?" Max's chest tightened. He knew the place well, a spot Mason used to run to whenever the world grew too much. Alex went with him often, leaving Max behind. He never said it out loud, but he hated those nights. Now that same place carried a threat larger than silence. He quickened his pace. "Why me, Alex? You were his best friend. If you're here, why can't you go to him?" Alex shook his head. He wouldn't listen. He wouldn't believe it was me. He needs someone alive to pull him back. The words stung. Max wondered if Mason would even listen to him. Years of silence built a wall thicker than any grief. His parents never forgave Mason, and by extension neither did Max, at least not outwardly. Still, no night passed without him thinking of Mason's face, of his voice, of the possibility that once lingered between them. "You're saying he's going to—" Max stopped, unable to finish. Alex met his eyes. "Yes, unless you stop him." Rain ran down Max's face, hiding the heat in his skin. He thought about Mason standing on that bridge alone, convinced his life ended the night Alex's did. He could almost see him stepping forward into darkness. The thought pushed Max's feet faster. "He thinks it's his fault," Alex said. "I know," Max replied bitterly. "Everyone thinks it's his fault." "No," Alex said firmly. "Not everyone. Not me. And neither do you, really. You're just repeating what everyone else says." Max glanced at him. Alex's face looked calm, though sorrow lingered in his eyes. "He told me he loved me that night," Alex continued. His voice lowered, almost lost in the sound of rain. "We were in his car. He said it, and he meant it. Then I drove away, and the truck came. He believes those words distracted me. He believes they killed me." Max stopped running, his body frozen in the middle of the street. His stomach turned, his throat tightened. He shook his head slowly. "He told you?" Alex nodded once. Max's chest burned. He wanted to collapse, he wanted to scream. He wanted to say he already knew. that he already felt it, that Mason's silence since then carried the proof. Instead, he whispered, "So that's why he disappeared." Alex looked at him carefully. "He loved me, Max. But he loves you too. He always has, though he fought it harder. He's drowning in guilt, and he won't survive the night unless you reach him." Max's vision blurred. He couldn't tell if it was from rain or tears. His hand shook as he gripped his jacket tighter. "I can't face him. I don't know what I would say. I don't even know if I could look at him." "You don't have a choice," Alex said. His voice carried no anger, only certainty. "I can't fix this, only you can." Max started moving again, his legs heavy, his breath uneven. He hated that Alex was right. He hated that this burden fell to him. He hated that part of him longed to see Mason again, even under these circumstances. The streets stretched longer than they ever felt before. Houses stood quiet with their curtains drawn, lights flickering inside. The rain covered everything in silence, leaving only the sound of his footsteps and the faint echo of Alex moving beside him. At one corner, Max slowed. "What if he doesn't want to see me?" Alex's figure flickered faintly in the glow of a streetlight. "He needs you whether he wants it or not." Max clenched his fists. His mind replayed images he tried to bury. The funeral, his mother's sobbing, his father's silence, the whispers in the church blaming Mason for everything. He remembered how Mason avoided his eyes that day, how he disappeared from town for weeks after. He remembered how much it hurt to miss him while hating him at the same time. "Why now?" Max asked finally. "Why come back tonight?" Alex hesitated before answering. "Because I can't stay here. I've tried. This is my only chance to make things right, through you." The truth of it pressed hard against Max. His throat felt raw, but he nodded. He could not argue anymore. Mason's life was hanging in balance, and he was the one being sent to pull him back. They turned down a narrow road leading toward the river. The smell of wet earth filled the air. Max felt his chest tighten with each step. The image of Mason standing alone near the water grew sharper in his mind. He did not know what words he would use. He did not know if Mason would hear them. Alex was close enough for Max to feel him without touch. His presence gave strength, though Max feared what would happen once he disappeared again. He could already sense the strain in Alex's form, the way his voice sometimes wavered. "You'll have to hurry," Alex said softly. "He won't wait long." Max kept running. Each step carried both dread and need. He hated Mason for disappearing. He loved him for reasons he could never silence. Now both feelings pushed him forward. The rain did not let up. The night deepened. Somewhere ahead, Mason waited, broken enough to believe he belonged in the river. Max clenched his jaw and moved faster, because turning back was no longer possible. The road to the river stretched longer than Max remembered. The rain softened to a steady drizzle, yet his jacket clung to him as if the damp had soaked into his bones. His shoes splashed against shallow puddles, every step sounding louder in the quiet night. Alex was at his side, his figure faint in the dark. Max kept his eyes ahead. He wanted to ask Alex how much time remained, but he could already see the answer in the way his brother's form wavered against the glow of the street lamps. They passed the corner store where he and Alex once bought soda after baseball practice. He remembered how Mason would always carry an extra $1 for Max, pretending it was nothing. Now the sight of the shuttered windows made Max's chest ache. He wondered if Mason thought about those nights when the weight of guilt pressed too hard. "You never forgave him," Alex said quietly. Max flinched. Neither did Mom or Dad. "I didn't ask about them," Alex said. His voice carried no judgment, only curiosity. Max slowed his pace. His throat tightened. I wanted to believe he wasn't at fault. But every time I saw Mom cry, every time Dad left the room when his name came up, it was easier to let the silence grow. And maybe I blamed him too. Not for the crash, but for leaving afterward. For leaving me. Alex studied him. His eyes held a depth Max both feared and longed for. "You loved him even then." Max pressed his lips together, unwilling to confirm it aloud. The truth filled every part of him. yet speaking it felt like stepping off a cliff. They turned down another road, narrower and lined with trees. The sound of the river reached them faintly, rolling beneath the rain. Max's pulse quickened. As they approached the old baseball field, he slowed. The chain-link fence sagged where years of storms had bent it. The bleachers stood empty, slick with rain. Max climbed through the gap in the fence, Alex slipping through without sound. Near the dugout, Max spotted something on the ground. A crumpled beer can lay beside a folded sheet of paper pressed flat by the damp. He picked it up, his fingers trembling as he opened it. The words inside blurred in the rain, but enough remained clear. "I don't deserve another sunrise." Max's stomach twisted. His knees felt weak and he crouched to steady himself. He pressed the note against his palm, holding it tight as if the paper might vanish. Alex stood behind him. "He's serious," he said. Max's eyes stung. He rose slowly, his breath shallow. "Where is he now?" "The bridge," Alex said. "He went there." Max shoved the note into his pocket. His chest burned with urgency, with fear, with something deeper he didn't want to name. He climbed back through the fence, his pace quickening again. The path to the bridge stretched through a field where weeds grew tall, water pooling at the edges. His shoes sank into the mud, yet he pressed forward, his body carrying more speed than thought. As he reached the far side, the bridge came into view. Its metal frame stretched across the river, the streetlights casting thin reflections on the water below. Max's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't see Mason yet, but he knew he was there. He felt it. Alex's voice pressed against his ear. "You need to reach him now." Max nodded faintly, though his body trembled. His mind raced with questions he could not answer. What if Mason refused to hear him? What if his presence made things worse? What if he failed? Yet the image of the note drove him forward. Mason believed he did not deserve another morning. Max could not let that belief become truth. He stepped onto the bridge. The wet pavement glistened beneath the dim lights. His footsteps echoed faintly, carrying across the span. He strained his eyes, searching. Halfway across, a shadow moved near the railing. Max stopped, his breath sharp. Mason leaned against the metal, his head bowed, his body hunched forward. Max's chest seized. Every nerve in his body screamed for him to move, to run, to call out. Yet he froze, staring at the boy who once filled his every thought. The boy he loved in silence, the boy who now stood one step from leaving the world. Alex whispered, "Go." Max forced his legs to move. Each step felt fragile, yet he crossed the distance slowly, carefully, afraid any sudden sound might push Mason closer to the edge. His heart pounded, his throat dry, his hands shaking at his sides. When he drew close enough, Mason turned. His eyes caught the light, red-rimmed and swollen. His expression shifted from shock to bitterness in an instant. Max stopped a few feet away, his voice trembling when it came. "Mason." The name cracked through the night, carrying both fear and longing. The sound of the river below rose steady, but the silence between them pressed heavier. Mason's lips parted, then closed again. His gaze hardened. "You shouldn't be here." Max's pulse raced. The note in his pocket burned against him. His brother's presence lingered at his side. Every part of him screamed that there was no turning back. The air on the bridge carried the sharp smell of wet metal and river water. Max stood a few feet from Mason, his shoes planted firm though his legs shook. Mason leaned against the railing, rain dripping from his hair, his eyes rimmed red. "You shouldn't be here," Mason repeated, his voice low but steady enough to cut through the noise of the river. Max swallowed, forcing sound through his tight throat. "I had to come." Mason let out a sharp laugh with no trace of humor. "You think I want to see you? After everything your family says about me? After everything you probably say too?" "I don't," Max said quickly. "I don't blame you." Mason turned his head away. His hands gripped the railing, knuckles white in the weak light. "Don't lie to me. I know what people think. I know what you think. Your brother left my house that night. He never came back. That doesn't go away. Max stepped closer. Rain slid down his face, cold against his skin, but he ignored it. I'm sorry, Mason, I really am. Mason's shoulders tensed. His voice broke as he answered, But it's true, isn't it? It is my fault. Max's breath caught. He could hear Alex behind him, though Mason couldn't see him. Tell him the truth, Alex whispered. Max's chest ached, his eyes fixed on Mason's trembling hands. He moved another step forward. Mason, I know what you told him that night. Mason spun, his face pale in the glow of the streetlight. His eyes widened before narrowing. Who told you? Alex, Max said softly. He told me tonight. Mason staggered back, his body pressing tighter against the railing. His voice rose in anger. Don't do this, don't throw his name at me like that. You don't know what it felt like. I told him, and hours later he was gone. My words killed him, and nothing anyone says will change it. They didn't, Max said firmly, though his body shook. Your words didn't kill him. A truck did. Mason let out a ragged breath, shaking his head. You don't get it. I distracted him. I ruined him, and I ruined you too. Look at you. You'll never have another normal birthday again. Your parents still won't let you drive. They hold you too close and push you away at the same time. All my fault. Max's throat tightened. His voice came out rough, almost a whisper. You didn't ruin me. Mason laughed again, hollow, sharp. Then why do you sound like you're begging me to believe it? Max's hands curled into fists. He forced himself another step closer, his chest burning with words he never thought he would say. Because I love you. The sound hung in the air, carried by the rain. Mason froze, his body rigid, his mouth parting but no words coming out. His eyes locked on Max's face, searching for any sign of a lie. Max's voice shook as he continued. I've loved you for years, even when I shouldn't, even when you stayed away, even when my parents cursed your name. I never stopped. Mason's chest heaved. He turned back toward the river, his grip on the railing so tight his knuckles looked raw. His voice dropped, strained and shaking. Don't say that, don't put that on me. Loving you is worse than what I already carry. It isn't, Max said, stepping closer until only a few feet separated them. You feel it too, I can see it. Mason's breath shuddered, he didn't turn. His words cracked as they fell from him. I do. I've fought it since before Alex died. Fought it because it felt wrong. Because I already betrayed him once with my words, and if I love you, then I betray him again. I can't do that. Max's heart pounded. He reached a hand toward Mason, though he stopped short of touching. He doesn't see it that way. You don't know that, Mason snapped, whipping around, his face contorted with pain. His body shifted closer to the edge. You don't know what he would think. You don't know how much it destroys me every time I think of him. Every time I think of you. I do know, Max said, his voice breaking. He could feel Alex's presence press against him, steady, urging. He lifted his chin. I know because he told me. He doesn't blame you. He never did. Mason's lips trembled. His body swayed against the railing. If Alex were here, maybe. But he's not. The words hung sharp and final. Mason turned toward the water, his fingers sliding along the rail as if preparing to climb. Max lunged forward, his hand reaching out before thought could stop him. Max's fingers closed around Mason's wrist before he could lift himself over the railing. The muscles in Mason's arm tightened, his body jerking in resistance, but Max refused to let go. Rain slicked their skin, making it harder to hold. Yet Max gripped tighter, nails biting into flesh. Don't, Max said, his voice raw. Don't leave me too. Mason's chest heaved, his face twisted with anguish. You don't understand what it's like waking up every day with his name in my throat. I killed him, Max. Nothing changes that. You didn't, Max said, louder this time. He pulled Mason back until his feet touched solid ground again. A truck killed him. You loved him. That isn't the same. Mason ripped his arm free and staggered back, pressing both palms to his face. His body shook with violent sobs. I told him I loved him, and then he was gone. I told him, and now I can't even look at you without hearing his voice, without thinking I'll ruin you too. Max's pulse raced. He stepped closer and placed a hand on Mason's shoulder. Mason flinched but didn't pull away. He doesn't think that. He told me tonight, Mason. He's here. He's been here since the accident. And he doesn't blame you, not for a second. Mason dropped his hands, his face streaked with tears and rain. His eyes searched Max's, desperate, uncertain. You expect me to believe you can talk to him? That his ghost follows you? Yes, Max said firmly. I see him. I hear him. And right now, he's telling me to stop you from doing this. For a moment, Mason said nothing. His jaw clenched, his body tense, his eyes locked on Max as if weighing whether to believe. Then his voice broke into a whisper. If he's here, then he knows I loved him. He knows I failed him. Max tightened his grip on Mason's shoulder. He knows you loved him. He knows you love me. And he wants you to stop punishing yourself. Mason's breath hitched. He turned his face away, but not before Max saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes. Silence stretched between them, filled by the sound of the river and the steady rain. Then Alex's voice rose in Max's ear, clear and insistent. Tell him the truth, tell him everything. Max's throat felt tight, but he obeyed. He stepped in front of Mason, forcing him to look at him. I've loved you since I was a kid. I never said it because I thought it would break everything. Then Alex died and you vanished, and I kept it inside until it hurt to breathe. But it never went away. Mason's eyes widened, his breath shallow. Max? No. Max pressed on, his voice shaking but strong. You blame yourself for his death, but you're killing yourself now, and I won't let you. I won't lose you too. I love you, Mason. I always have. Mason staggered back a step, his lips parting but no words coming out. His body trembled as if the weight of the confession pressed against him, crushing and impossible to hold. Finally, his voice broke in a whisper. You shouldn't love me. You should hate me. Max reached for his hand, holding it tight. I don't. I never could. And Alex doesn't want me to. He wants us to live. The name hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Mason froze, his eyes darting toward the empty space beside Max as if trying to see what Max saw. For a moment his chest heaved, his lips moving soundlessly. Then he collapsed forward, his forehead pressing against Max's shoulder, his sobs racking his frame. Max wrapped his arms around him and held on. Rain soaked them both, but neither moved. Mason clung to him as if Max's body anchored him to the earth. I don't know how to stop hating myself, Mason whispered, broken. Max shut his eyes. You start by letting me stay, by believing me when I say you're not alone. The river roared beneath them, the rain steady on their skin. But the night felt smaller now, closed around the two of them. Alex's voice came again, quiet and fading but filled with warmth. Good. Now let go. Max's breath caught. He pressed his face into Mason's wet hair, his heart torn between grief and relief. Alex's presence thinned, as if the storm carried him away. Mason clutched him tighter, his voice hoarse. I don't deserve you. Max answered without hesitation. You do. You always did. For the first time, Mason didn't argue. He held on instead, his sobs slowing, his body trembling less. Rain fell, the river kept moving, and Max kept his arms around him, refusing to let go. Max's parents were already gone for work. It was Thursday, so they would both be late. Morning crept in without color. The storm had passed, leaving the air heavy with damp earth and the faint smell of smoke from distant chimneys. Max opened his eyes to the faint light spilling through Mason's curtains. Mason slept beside him, curled toward the edge of the mattress, his hand still resting near Max's. It seemed fragile, the way his chest lifted and fell, as if every breath required effort. Max stared at the ceiling, his mind quiet for the first time in months. No voice threaded through his thoughts. No presence lingered in the shadows. Alex was gone. The silence ached, but it carried peace too. Max drew in a slow breath, pressing it down into himself, holding it there. He rose carefully so Mason would not wake, then crossed to the window. The neighborhood looked worn but calmer in daylight. Rain clung to the asphalt, shining faintly. Branches glistened, stripped clean. He pressed his hand to the glass. He thought of the 18 years Alex never received, of the parties that never came, of the laughter that never returned to this house. Yet in the same breath he thought of Mason asleep behind him, alive because Max refused to let him go. The floor creaked softly. Mason stirred, turning his head toward Max. His eyes opened, heavy and bloodshot. "You're awake." His voice rasped. Max nodded, his throat tightening. "So are you." Mason sat up, dragging a hand over his face. His shoulders slumped, but not with the same weight as the night before. "I don't know how to look at you after everything I said." "Then don't look at me," Max said gently. "Stay with me instead." Mason's eyes flickered with confusion, then softened, though fear still lingered in them. He swung his legs off the bed and stood, crossing to the same window where Max stood. For a moment they didn't speak, their reflections faint against the glass. "I felt him," Mason whispered. "Not in the way you did. Not in voices or visions. But when you spoke to me last night, something shifted. I can't explain it. I think he forgave me." Max lowered his gaze. "He did. I heard him." Mason turned then, his hand reaching for Max's. Their fingers touched, tentative at first, then settled together. "If he forgave me, I need to forgive myself. I don't know how long that will take. I can't promise I'll stop breaking apart tomorrow." Max tightened his grip. "I'm not asking you to stop. I'm asking you to let me stay when it happens." The words settled between them like a vow. Mason leaned forward, pressing his forehead lightly against Max's. For the first time in years, Max felt no shadow in Mason's presence, no wall raised to keep him at a distance. Later that morning they walked together to the cemetery. The ground was soft from rain, the grass bending beneath their steps. Mason carried no flowers. Max carried none either. They came with nothing but themselves. At Alex's headstone, Mason stopped. His hands shook slightly, but he kept them unclenched at his sides. Max stood beside him, waiting. "I told him I loved him before the accident," Mason said finally, his voice unsteady. "I never told him I was sorry. I should have." "You told him now," Max replied. Mason's breath came sharp, then slowed. He nodded, his gaze fixed on the stone. Silence stretched, but it no longer felt unbearable. Max sensed it. Alex's absence, not harsh but quiet, as if the boy had stepped away to rest at last. They left without words. The walk back felt longer, though neither wished to rush it. Each step pressed the world closer to the future, rather than the past. At Mason's door, Max paused. "You're not alone anymore." Mason met his eyes, his mouth tightening before he let out a shuddering breath. "I don't deserve you, Max, but I want you here." "You already have me," Max said. Inside, the house smelled faintly of rain-soaked wood. Mason moved toward the kitchen, hands uncertain, as if relearning how to be in a place that had carried so much grief. Max followed, not to lead, but to keep him company. The hours unfolded slowly, fragile but real. Mason spoke in fragments, pieces of memory and regret. Max listened. Sometimes their hands found each other again without thought. The weight between them shifted, lighter, though still raw. When night returned, Max sat on the porch steps while Mason leaned against the doorway. The street was quiet, the air cooling. Max lifted his eyes to the sky. Stars broke through the thinning clouds. No voice reached him. No flicker of presence touched his senses. The silence stretched, steady and final. He let it stay. Alex had carried them this far. Now they needed to figure out how to walk alone, but together.
Please make sure you are subscribed and be one of the strange.